Picture this. The scorching heat of Kingston's tarmac couldn't match the fiery anticipation of thousands of Jamaicans on April 21st, 1966. As people from all over Jamaica flooded Norman Manley International Airport to witness history, the arrival of Emperor Haile Selassie I. As the Ethiopian airliner touched down, the atmosphere was electric. Drums, chants, and the scent of herb filled the air. The crowd was so immense and energetic that it overwhelmed the security barriers. For 45 minutes, the Emperor's plane remained still, the excitement palpable. When Haile Selassie finally emerged, the crowd erupted in a thunderous roar. Some called it divine, as the rain stopped right when his plane appeared. Mitzi Siga, who was present, described the noise as louder than thunder. The Emperor moved to tears, lifted his hands in a gesture of both royal greeting and a plea for calm. The excitement was so intense that it delayed the Emperor's departure from the airport. Mortimer Plano, a Rastafarian leader, was called upon to calm the crowd. Only then could the Emperor proceed to a civic reception at the National Stadium, where he was welcomed by Acting Prime Minister Sir Donald Sangster and presented with the keys to Kingston. The next day, the Emperor's schedule was packed. He visited downtown Kingston, laid a wreath at the War Memorial, and attended Parliament. He was particularly touched by the exhibition of local crafts by the Rastafarian Brethren Association at Vale Royal. On April 23rd, the Emperor embarked on a historic train journey across Jamaica, stopping at various towns, including Magady and St. Elizabeth. Here, a student from Glen Stewart Primary School was awarded a souvenir coin by the Emperor, a moment cherished by many. His visit concluded with a somber yet dignified departure from Montego Bay on April 24th. The contrast between his tumultuous welcome and quiet farewell was striking. This visit, deeply emotional and historically significant, solidified the bond between Jamaica and Ethiopia. What do you think about this incredible piece of history? Share your thoughts below. For more captivating stories, follow and like for more content.
Marcus Garvey, a black nationalist and leader of the Pan-African movement in the early 1900s, once said, "In death, I shall be a terror to the foes of Negro liberty." Elements of Garvey's beliefs and activism, which were embraced by millions of followers, were absorbed by several black activist groups, such as the Black Panthers, Rastafarians, Nation of Islam, and amongst many others. Marcus Mosiah Garvey was born in Jamaica in 1887, which he grew up reading the books of his father in his library. He left Jamaica at the age of 23 and traveled through Central and South America, working as a newspaper reporter and editor in 1912. He then moved to London and studied law. He also worked for a Pan-African newspaper and gained a lot of fame as being a speaker at Hyde Park. In 1916, Garvey then moved to the United States. He settled in New York and started the UNIA. The UNIA then branched out into Harlem, where he gained a lot of followers and major notoriety, forming the Universal Negro Improvement Association, the UNIA, which promoted black economics, political equity, and the liberation of Africa from European colonialism by the way of forming a black army. The organization then expanded to 700 branches with more than 2 million members worldwide and associates, which symbolizes unity and unification of black people worldwide. He also launched factories, restaurants, urging black people to buy black and spend black. He then launched the BSL, the Black Star Line, which he purchased 3 ships in hopes of African redemption program to Liberia. Marcus Garvey was a separatist and believed in a separate state for Africans away from these European counterparts. Other black civil rights activists were outraged. W.B. Du Bois once said, "Marcus Garvey is the most dangerous enemy to the Negro race in America and around the world." The newly formed Bureau of Investigations, led by J. Edgar Hoover, later becoming the FBI, sent an undercover agent against the UNIA to take out Marcus Garvey. Garvey was then arrested on mail fraud for selling stock in the ships of the BSL that wasn't purchased yet. He was then imprisoned in 1925 and sentenced to a maximum 5-year sentence in a federal penitentiary in Atlanta. He was then deported back to Jamaica in 1927 and established the nation's first modern political organization, the People's Political Party, focusing on workers' rights and socialist ideals. Garvey then returned to London in 1935, where he lived and worked until he died from complications after 2 strokes. His body was then exhumed and buried beneath the Marcus Garvey Memorial National Heroes Park in Kingston, Jamaica, being Jamaica's first national hero.
Ever heard of the Clarendon plane crash filled with herb in 1972? Let's dive into this wild piece of history. On September 11, 1972, at 1:30 a.m., a Lockheed 18 Learstar, registration N1040E, attempted a daring takeoff from an unlit runway in Clarendon, Jamaica. This aircraft, manufactured in 1943, had an intriguing backstory, but what happened next was truly shocking. As the plane began its ascent, it veered left and crashed into nearby trees. The pilot's premature liftoff was a critical error, but there's more to the story. Upon inspection, authorities discovered a large stash of herb on board. Yes, you heard that right. A plane full of herb. This illegal flight ended in disaster, with one fatality out of the 3 occupants, and the aircraft was completely destroyed. The crash site was a scene of chaos, with the smuggled herb strewn across the area. This incident highlighted the dangerous lengths people would go to for smuggling herb during that era. Now, this wasn't just a simple crash. The investigation revealed that the pilot's poor judgment during the initial climb phase led to this tragic event. Despite the unfortunate outcome, the incident remains a fascinating, albeit cautionary, tale from aviation history. Fast forward to today, and the topic still sparks curiosity and debate. Why? Because it encapsulates a moment in time where illegal activities intersected dramatically with aviation. So, what do you think about this wild story? Ever heard of any other? Rijing Martin was Jamaica's most wanted criminal in 1948. Imagine a man so feared that he became a legend. Known for a string of robberies and murders, Rijing's crime spree ended in a dramatic shootout on Lime Cay. This notorious outlaw was finally taken down by the police after eluding them for weeks. Rijing's tale begins in the slums of Kingston, where he grew up and quickly turned to a life of crime. His violent escapades made headlines, and his ability to evade capture frustrated law enforcement. After escaping from prison, he continued his crime spree, which included killing a policeman and multiple other victims. One of his most infamous acts was a revenge killing of a woman named Lucille Tibby Young, whom he shot after failing to find his intended target. But what led to his downfall? It was his hubris and the relentless pursuit by the police. Cornered on Lime Cay, Rijing fought fiercely, but was ultimately overpowered. His body, riddled with bullets, was taken back to Kingston, drawing a crowd eager to see the infamous criminal's end. Thousands lined the streets to catch a glimpse of his body as it was transported to the morgue. What makes Rijing's story even more fascinating is how he became a folk hero. Despite his violent deeds, he was seen as a symbol of resistance against the system. His life and death inspired songs, poems, and even the iconic Jamaican film, The Harder They Come. Rijing's notoriety was so widespread that he even taunted the police through letters published in newspapers, boasting about his exploits and daring them to catch him. Rijing's story is a complex mix of crime, culture, and legend. So, what do you think about Rijing? Was he a cold-blooded killer or a symbol of rebellion? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to follow and like for more stories about Jamaica's intriguing history. Lewis Hutchinson, Jamaica's first recorded serial killer known as the Mad Doctor of Jamaica. Arriving from Scotland in the 1760s, Hutchinson took over the Edinburgh Castle estate. But instead of managing his lands peacefully, he became infamous for his troubling actions. His weapon of choice, a firearm in fear itself, a tool to keep all trespassers at bay. Hutchinson's behavior wasn't limited to strangers. Even his neighbors weren't safe. Take Dr. Jonathan Hutton, for example. One evening, Hutchinson attacked him with a stolen saber, causing severe injuries that required silver plate replacements. Imagine this: Hutchinson's castle, where over 43 watches and numerous personal belongings were discovered, proof of his actions. They say he even disposed of his victims in a deep sinkhole, never to be seen again. Some rumors suggest he had unusual consumption habits, but we might never know the full truth. His reign of terror ended when he mistakenly harmed an English soldier, leading to his capture by the Royal Navy. Despite his defiant last words, their sentence, pride and malice I defy, despise their power and like a Roman die. He was executed in 1773. Today, the ruins of Edinburgh Castle still stand. What is it about these macabre stories that fascinate us? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're intrigued by the dark side of history, don't forget to hit that follow button and like the video for more chilling tales.